Good morning. My name is Mrs. Epps, and the title of our chapter today is called Mark Gets Hired. I underlined it in green for you. And this is the second chapter of the chapter book called Mark's Money. We previously did a lesson entitled Mark Wants a Video Game. So if you have not done that lesson, it's a good idea to go back and do that lesson and then do this lesson next. Okay, so our objective today is, I'm going to underline it for you. I will remember one thing Mark does to get hired for his job. So I want you to remember one thing that Mark does to get hired for his job. All right, let's begin. And here is our chapter 2, Mark Gets Hired. All right. Before we begin, we're going to do an activity called Standards Calls. We have not, and it says, what is the title of this chapter? Do you remember? All right. Did you say Mark gets hired? If you did, you were correct. Number 2 says, what do you think this chapter will be about? So let's go back and look at the book cover, or the chapter cover. And we can see here that someone looks like they're filling out a form. It says application for employment. And then we see a person walking to another person who's sitting at a desk. Maybe they are going to maybe this person is going to interview this young person here. So maybe this chapter is going to be about a job interview or being hired for a job. This chapter will be about about what to do to get hired for a job. It might be. We have to see. All right. Oops, I'm sorry. All right. So our next question says, what kind of chapter book is this? Is it fiction or nonfiction? So we know fiction is something that is made up or make believe. And we know that nonfiction is something that is true. And if we look here very closely, this is a picture of Abraham Lincoln, and you know that he was one of our country's presidents. So let's see if let's just look at the cover of the book. Let's just walk through some of the pages. So this looks like this is a fiction book because Mark is not a person that we know in history. He's just a person that we're just learning about. So this is a fiction chapter. You may have picked fiction. Okay. What is the chapter topic? Is it a biography, social studies, or science? What do you think? Well, we saw a picture here of Mark, so it must be a biography. Compare this book to a chapter book that has been recently read. So now this is our first chapter book. So we can work on that maybe in some other lessons that are coming up. What kind of book would you choose? What kind of books do you like? Do you like picture books, chapter books, comic books, or book with facts? I like chapter books and I like books with facts. You might like a picture book. Or you might like a comic book. Let's flip comic book. All right, let's get started with our reading for today. All right, so we know our title is called Mark Gets Hired. So let's look at our pictures. And we see here that Mark is sitting with his mom. It looks like he may be getting ready to ask her some questions. And here's that application again. I wonder if Mark is going to have to fill out that application. Here's Mark sitting at his desk. He has a job application in front of him. Maybe he's getting ready to fill it out. Now he's talking to someone, and it looks like his application is on the desk. And now this person is thinking about, looks like it might be a schedule. Now someone has a calendar out and they're circling specific days on a calendar. I wonder what that means. Now Mark is thinking about the video game system and money. I want to show you this real quickly. This was the first chapter. So if you get a chance, go and read this chapter first and then come back to this chapter. It'll help you understand it more. Okay. All right. So Mark looks at the job application from the grocery store. So if you recall in the last chapter, he picked up a job application from the grocery store. He asked his mother why he has to fill it out. People fill out a job application to get hired or picked for a job, says Mark's mother. Businesses look at job applications to help pick people to hire. Mark wants to fill out the job application so he can get hired. So at the bottom of each page, there's going to be a question. And I'm going to ask you the question because it's going to help you understand our story even more. And it says here, describe why it's important to fill out a job application. Think about that for a second. Did you say so that you can get hired for the job? Well, there it is right here. People fill out the job application to get picked for a job, hired or picked for a job. Okay. Mark fills out the job application. First, he writes his name and birth date. Next, Mark writes his address and telephone number. The next line on the job application asks about past jobs. This will be Mark's first job. He doesn't have any other jobs to write down. Mark's mother says this is okay. Working as a grocery bagger is a great first job. And here's our question at the bottom here. It says, what kind of information do you have to fill out on a job application? Let's look back up here in our story. And you can see that Mark had to write his name and birth date. He had to write his address and telephone number on the job application. And I would like to add here, when you fill out a job application, you want to make sure that you write neat if you have to use a ink pen. Most applications now are done online. All right. There is a question on the job application. Why would you be good for this job? Mark knows a grocery bagger needs to be helpful and kind. So this is very important. That bagger needs to be helpful and kind. He writes about why he is helpful and kind. Mark helps his mother carry groceries from her car and put them away. He opens the door for others. He smiles when people walk by. How is Mark helpful and kind? Did you say Mark stated that he helps his mother carry groceries from her car and put them away? That was a good idea, and you're right. That's exactly what the story says. All right, let's go to our next page. The next day, Mark and his mother go to the grocery store. Mark gives the job application to the store manager. The store manager looks at the job application. She talks to Mark more about the job. The store manager asks Mark questions. After a while, the store manager tells Mark he's got the job. I know Mark is excited. So let's look at our question at the bottom of the page. It says, describe what Mark had to do before the store manager gave him the job. What did he have to do? Did you say she talks to Mark more about the job? The store manager asks Mark questions? Yes. This is an interview. Before you get a job, you have to be interviewed first. And that's what she did. So if we take a second to just think about our objective was, what was one thing Mark had to do to get a job? Take a second and think about that. Did you say he had to fill out an application or talk to the store manager, which is technically a job interview? If you did, you were correct. Okay. The store manager talks to Mark about his work schedule. Mark will work 3 days a week from 4 to 7 p.m. He will start next week. She also tells Mark that he will make $8 an hour. Mark will get paid the money he has earned every 2 weeks. Mark can spend the money he earns on things he wants and needs. What is Mark's schedule? Take a few seconds to think about that. Did you say he'll be working 3 days a week? From 4 to 7, you were right. The next part of this question says, how much money will Mark earn each hour? Did you say $8 an hour? You're exactly right. Very good. Mark and his mother go home. Mark wants to be good at his job to earn money. To be good at his job, he needs to be on time. He needs to follow his schedule. If he follows his schedule, he won't be late for his job. Mark writes down his schedule on his calendar. So do you remember that calendar? That was Mark writing in the days that he's going to work. Why does Mark write down his schedule on the calendar? Did you say so that he won't be late for his job? That was a good answer. And that was in our story. Mark is happy to get hired for the job. He can earn money. Then he can spend his money on a video game system. Mark needs to be sure that he is on time every day for his job. Mark also needs to be helpful and kind while he is working. Mark is ready to start his first job. What does Mark need to do for his job? What does he need to do? Did you say Mark needs to be sure he is on time every day for his job? That is correct. You have to be on time every day. What I want to do, I want you to take a look at some pictures for me. Let's see. And I want you to tell me one thing Mark did to get hired. And we're going to look at these three pictures right here. Let me get my little pen. I want you to look at these three pictures right here. Tell me one thing, point to one thing he did to get hired for that job. Did you point to fill out the application? This one right here? Yes, that's what he had. That was one thing he had to do. He had to fill out that job application, right? Exactly right. You're exactly right. Okay, let's move on to our first activity. And our question says, Mark will fill out a blank to get a job. Let's look at our choices. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger for you. There we go. All right. Schedule, form, work, hired, manager. What word would go on the blank? You can point to it on the screen. And you always want to use your story to help you figure out the answer. So we know that Mark had to fill out a form, and we see that form is right here. And we see that he's filling out the form. He fills out that job application, which is right here. Okay? So we're going to put form there. He did have to fill out a form. Number 2 says, Mark gives the form to the store who? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to see what word we can put in here that will help this sentence make sense. Is it going to be schedule, form, work, hired, or manager? What do you think? Point to the word that you think that it is. Did you say manager? You were correct. Number 3 says Mark will 3 days a week. So we have to fill in the blank. Schedule, form, work, or hired. If we put schedule here, Mark was scheduled 3 days a week. Does that make sense? So we know we can't use schedule. Mark will form 3 days a week. Does that make sense? We can't use form. Mark will work 3 days a week. That sounds correct. So we can put an imaginary check there. Mark will hire 3 days a week. Does hired make sense? So let's try work. Mark will work 3 days a week. Okay, Mark needs to follow his schedule, form, work, hired, manager. Point to the word that would go in the blank. So let's go back to our story. So what does Mark need to do? He needs to follow his what? Schedule. That word is right there, his schedule. I know you selected schedule. Number 5 says Mark is happy he got blank for the job. So I just said blank because there's a blank there. Would it be form, work, before? I just said blank. What we're going to do, let's use our story to answer the question. And we can see right here in our first sentence says Mark is happy he got hired for the job. If you chose hired, you were correct. You're doing a really great job. You're working hard and you're listening carefully. Okay, let's go to our next activity. And we're going to answer some questions, some more questions about our story. It says, what is this chapter about? I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so that you can see it. What is this chapter about? Here are your choices. A, flying a kite. B, getting hired for a job. Or C, shopping at a store. Make a selection. Okay, let's use our story. Okay. So this story is all about, so we can see here that Mark fills in a job application. Why? Why is he doing that? Because he wants to get hired for a job, right? There it is right there. You said getting hired for a job. You were correct. Number 2 says, who does Mark give his form to? A, mother. B, teacher. C, manager. Now, we're going to do something called a process of elimination right here, okay? So, did Mark give the form to his mom? Would she be able to hire him for the job at the grocery store? So we can put an X there, imaginary X. Would he give his job to his teacher? Did our story mention his teacher at all? We can put an imaginary X right there. But did he give the form to a manager? It talked about a store manager, right? So yes, he gave his form to a store manager. Number 3 says, what will Mark do 3 days a week? Work, talk on the phone, or sing? Let's see what our story says. And if we look right here, it says Mark will work. This word right here, he will work 3 days a week. Did you choose work? You did. If you did, you did a good job. Very good. Number 4 says, what does Mark need to follow? What does Mark need to follow? A menu, TV show, or schedule? Take a minute to think about that. And you can point to the screen and make your choice. So if we go here, it says here, he needs to follow his schedule. All right? Mark needs to follow his schedule. What is important to know about this chapter? What is important to know about this chapter? A, Mark works at the A. B, Mark is happy he got hired for the job. Or C, Mark does not like carrying groceries. Let's go back to our story. We can see right here, Mark is happy he got hired for the job. Very good. All right. You did a very good job on those 2 activities. So we're going to go to one more activity. And it's talking about the main idea. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger for you. And they want to know what happened in the beginning of the story. So what happened in the beginning of the story? Take a second to think about that. Did you say Mark filled out a job application? If you said that, you were correct. He did. All right. And what happened next? It says, then what happened? So after he filled out here's Mark filling out the job application. What happened next? He talks to who? The store manager. So he gets interviewed for the job. All right. So what happened at the end of the story? Take a second to think about that. Okay, let's use our story to help us come up with the answer. And we can see right here, once again, Mark is happy he got hired for the job. Okay. Mark was hired for the job. What is important to know? What is important to know about this chapter? Take a second to think about that. Did you say if you want a job, you have to fill out a job application? I think it's gonna, if you want a job, you have to, well, application would have gone in this line here. And you also have to be interviewed for a job too as well. Someone has to talk to you about a job if you want a job. Okay, this is the end of our lesson, and I hope that you have learned something today. I hope that when you go for your first job, that you will do a good job at interviewing for a good job and filling out your job application. Please remember to stay healthy and stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video lesson.